Well, drug overdose deaths continue to rise across the country, and New York State is helping families battle addiction. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Tamsen Fidel.
And I'm Erin LeBeau. Now, the state has announced $5 million to help people get better access to treatment as well as support. Now, majority of that funding goes to provide transportation. The rest expands telehealth services.
Getting help is a big step, and loved ones might have to make the first move in all of this. Here to explain the signs of addiction and ways that you can help is Dr. Elisa Hallerman, founder of Recovery Management Agency. And thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with young children. What are some of the warning signs that parents should look for that an adolescent could be struggling with addiction?
With the adolescents, I think first the most important thing is to look at the academics. If you notice a slow or quick decline in their grades, or they're isolating, they're staying in their room more often, they're being a little secretive, they start to change their friends, or maybe they're disinterested in their after-school activities or sports, they start to eat differently or not eat, you notice them sleeping longer than they would be, or a change in time when they're sleeping. Obviously, none of these things, all of these things have to be extreme and not normal behavior, but these are some signs to look for.
Well, doctor, you also say that a teenager's brain is actually more susceptible to addiction. What do you mean by that?
So there's two things. One is that the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain, is not fully developed until we're about 25. So an adolescent also has an increased reward drive. And what that means is they're constantly seeking out new and novel things, thrill seeking. It's a way that they can sort of express and learn more about themselves in a healthy way. But when they start experimenting with drugs and alcohol, and they get that enhanced dopamine release, it's something that they will continually go back to again and again because their reward drive is so much higher than it is for adults.
So what are some signs of addiction when it comes to adults?
So for adults, obviously there's some of the similar signs, but more I would look at, are they having issues at work? Did they recently lose their job? Are they having money or legal issues? Are they unable to keep their promises and their obligations? When confronted, are they showing up with denial? Do they seem to have lost their lack of enthusiasm for the things that they're normally very passionate about? Are you noticing sort of erratic behavior, a little paranoia?
Mm-hmm. So how do you know when it's time to intervene and get some help?
So that's a great question. I think if anyone's thinking, should I intervene, that's a good sign of yes, you probably should. I think most people are afraid to intervene because they're constantly confronted with the addict and not the authentic person inside that they know. Mm-hmm. And that can be scary, or it can make you feel angry or sad. But it's important to know that that person is inside. And there's not an addict that I know or have met over the many, many years, including myself, that doesn't have these moments of wanting to get better. It's exhausting to be living that lifestyle. And so to have people show up for you that love you, that are coming from a really heart-centered place, that can show up with prepared, that is also planning, preparation, and really having a place to send them and a place for them to go. Showing up and saying you have a problem is not good enough, but showing up and saying, I've done all this research for you, and here's what I think that you should do, and here are some options, and we would love to present them and help you to get from point A to point B. That's a really loving way to show up.
You really bring up some good points. Dr. Hallerman, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.